Welcome to the Course of Action podcast. My guest today is David Lopez, the CEO of Gritly, a hybrid staffing agency that is blazing a new path to tech sales. Gritly acts as a bridge between the minorities, veterans, and women and the companies who are looking to increase their diverse talent pools. Their hybrid cohorts are delivering an innovative means to education, resume prep, and job placement with absolute success. Thanks for tuning in, and now, David Lopez. All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. We got David Lopez, CEO of Gritly. Welcome, my friend.
Hey Jeff, thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, of course, man. So let's talk about you first so the audience can kind of get to know you. Who is David Lopez?
I'm a Colorado native, born and raised in the Denver area, and more than anything, I think I identify as an entrepreneur. I'm a founder, CEO of Gritly, but definitely, Gritly isn't my first company. I've had some other companies in the past that technically are failures, but I definitely look at as learning lessons, and definitely consider myself a lifelong learner, and more importantly, a problem solver. I see a problem, and I always think solutions first, and followed by action. So that a little bit about who I am, but definitely enjoy the founder life for sure.
Yeah, and they say, it's better to fail than to not try at all. So, yeah, you might have had many companies, but at least you tried. Some people don't even go out there and do that. So, kudos to you for at least trying, man. But right now, you have a company called Gritly, and that's a very interesting kind of subject. That's why you're on today, is to kind of tell us a little bit more about that. So, first of all, what is Gritly in a nutshell?
Yeah, Gritly is a career accelerator focused on launching diverse communities such as women, minorities, veterans, and justice involved individuals into entry level roles in high growth industries. So, what that means is, we're sourcing these candidates. A lot of these individuals are, raising their hand saying, look, I'm hearing about this industry, tech, it's growing, people are making a lot of money. I don't know who to talk to or where to start. These individuals are then finding Gritly, and they're coming into our program. And so we're giving them all of the tools that they need to be successful in that first role. And our first career focus is tech sales. And so, not only are we teaching them, how to interview and set up their resume and LinkedIn, but we're also taking it much further and giving them, literally the tools and technology that they will be using in the role. And we have a saying of we have our students do the job before they get the job, because a lot of our students typically don't have the traditional backgrounds. They might not have a 4-year degree, but what they do have, is the ability to have grit, right? Hence our name. And so we just set them up. We do all of the training, but then we take it one step further and we actually do the placements as well. So not only are we setting these individuals up for success, we're actually bringing in company partners that are hiring, looking to hire our students, and we actually set them up as almost like a matchmaking service. So that way our students are finding employment on the other side of the program. And within our 12-week program, we're seeing students double and triple their income. So really, the big premise around all of this is how do we get those individuals who have maybe been underserved in the past or don't have access to resources, access, and more importantly exposure to economic mobility, where they can start thinking about getting off government assistance, or thinking about how they're going to spend the next 3 or 4 years. More importantly, get them into a career where they can start to build a family or think about buying a home. Things like that is really important to us on the Gritly team. And the career accelerator is just the model in which we get that done.
Gotcha. So it's kind of a hybrid staffing agency, coaching, personal coaching, school, a little bit of everything to kind of get you started. I don't want to say a staffing agency on steroids, but that's kind of what it is, you're teaching folks what to do, how to get out there, how to present themselves, and then you're helping them find jobs. And that's pretty cool, man. So what inspired you to start Gritly Up? What was the need for it? When did it kind of dawn on you like, hey, this is it?
Yeah, so I think it actually kind of stems back into who I am, and where I'm at in my life. And so to give you some background on where I come from, as I mentioned, I'm a Colorado native, but I'm also the oldest of 6 kids. I was raised by a single mom who didn't finish high school, and so growing up, we were on all government assistance programs. You name them, we were on it. And so
Mhm.
from an early age, I was always witnessing my mom struggle. And, from 5 years old, I felt like I had to contribute. I had to get a job. Now, I didn't know what that looked like. And, I didn't really know anybody that went to college, but I figured, okay, well, that must be my only path to success. And so growing up in government subsidized housing, my community, I was fortunate. I actually was able to get a full ride scholarship to college. Um, but understanding the reality of my community, I was a unicorn, right? I was the one to make it out, versus everyone else is really still kind of in these cycles, unfortunately. And so for me to be the first in my family to graduate high school was great, but then to be the first to graduate college was like, okay, this is everything else that we are looking for. But when I got to college, I realized two things right off the bat. One, there's not a lot of people that look like me, and two, at the end of the day, colleges and universities are businesses, and they're paid up front, and they don't offer any guarantee of success on the back end, especially for students who look like me and who aren't on a full ride scholarship and are actually going into debt to pursue this education. And so, it was almost like it's you pay to play, right? But what if you can't pay? Doesn't mean you don't deserve to play. It's just you have to find other means. And so I started looking at those other means. I looked at, there's like, a lot of the becoming a developer, and coding and all these other boot camps. And that was great. I was like, okay, cool. If my community can't go to college, they can go to these boot camps. And so I was like, well, let me try it out before I go and recommend it to everyone. And so I tried to teach myself how to code actually during my undergrad in a university setting. And that learning curve was very steep, and it was very lonely. I didn't know a ton of engineers. I really didn't know any. And to be honest with you, I didn't even own a laptop until I was a freshman in college. And so
Mm.
it's not like I was just like super tech savvy, or I had, connections or
Right.
any previous exposure prior to that. And so, I understood, look, I'm not an engineer, and that's okay, right? I can still provide value to a business,
Sure.
but probably more so on the revenue generation side. And so, during my undergrad, I was working in group projects, and just based on my upbringing, my work ethic has always been there, right? I'm here to I'm here to problem solve. I'm here to get things done. And I would work alongside other individuals who, were definitely more privileged than I was, and I would be leading our groups. But then I'm also seeing those same individuals who, didn't have as strong of a work ethic as I did, going out and getting these excellent, high-paying, entry level sales roles at fast-growing tech companies. And they're getting, not only are they getting a base salary, but they're also getting commission. They're getting stock options, benefits, everything that is just like music to my ears that I want to bring to my community. Now, they're getting it because they have this degree. So I kind of paused there, and I was just like, look, if these individuals can do that with the work ethic that I've seen firsthand, what about my community who, they experience things on a weekly basis, right? There were times where it was, my mom telling me, "Hey, son, we're gonna go, without X, Y, or Z for a few days until I can get my next check," right? And so for us, it was like, all right, well, we'll just adapt. We'll adapt for the next 48 to 72 hours for whatever we're going to be without. But that was okay. We were gonna get through it. That was wasn't anything for us. And so it was like, okay, I have this community, they have grit, they have hustle, they don't have access or exposure, but the one thing that's holding all of this back is a lack of a degree. Instead, let's skip the degree and let's go straight to the employers. And let's see, we approached them early on and we said, look, our students aren't going to have degrees. They're not going to come from traditional backgrounds, but we want you to help us co-develop this curriculum. So that way, there's no reason on the table for you to say we won't hire your students because you helped us develop this curriculum.
Yeah.
And so, we actually spent a lot of time, probably about 10 months, talking to our customers and developing what would ultimately become our first version of our curriculum, which was actually closer to draft 15 or 16, when all said and done. But for us was, let's bring them access, but the training comes directly from the employers. We're really just the middleman. And so, yeah, you had mentioned the staffing agency on steroids, is that's a pretty accurate representation, because we're working, our customers are the individuals, are the companies that we're placing these students at, but our curriculum comes from them as well. We're just going to go out and source these candidates. And so for us was, we know that sales is the easiest door for us to break down. Let's
Yeah.
master it here in an industry like tech that was one of the few during the pandemic to actually show growth. Right, we know a
Yeah. It
ton of,
was.
of small businesses that were
Yeah.
absolutely destroyed,
Mhm.
and that's incredibly unfortunate. But there was one of those few industries, and it was like, okay, well, if our students are a lot of them were impacted during the pandemic negatively, right? They're either losing jobs or they were laid off. They lost access. Head of households, lost their jobs. It,
Yep.
it was devastating. And so for me, I was like, okay, how do we avoid that next time? How do we find them? Is there such thing as a pandemic proof job, career? And if
Yeah.
so, the
Yeah.
closest thing to it might be tech. And
Yeah.
so that's where we decided to start. And so far it's worked really well. We are at 100% placement within 3 months of graduation of our program, and it's
Okay.
because of our students. We made a bet, and so far we're right. And it's exciting to see that our students' work ethic versus those of traditional backgrounds. I bet on Gritly students 10 times out of 10, and that's because of those communities that we support. And, just again, that's women, minorities, veterans, and justice involved individuals who, they maybe haven't achieved a lot, but they've been through a lot. And
Hmm.
and that ability to get through and overcome adversity is really something that you can't teach. And that's why, I'm so happy that Gritly is here to serve these individuals.
Well, there's something to say about school when, you're paying for it yourself, as opposed to when it's being paid for. And this isn't the case with all individuals, but with a lot of people, the mindset is a little different because it's like, well, this money is, school's getting paid for me, whatever means it is, scholarship, mom and dad, trust fund, scholarships, whatever it is, you know, um, when it's getting paid for and you don't have to worry about that, your mindset's a little different. It might not be for everybody, but when you're working for it yourself, and you're paying for it yourself, or you know that you have to pay something back, you pay a little more attention to it. So that is it's a little more difficult for folks to try to do and try to get a hold of that kind of money, especially at a big 4-year school. I mean, tuition is not cheap anymore, and like you said, colleges are businesses now. I mean, the tuition continues to go up and they continue to get federal aid, and it's kind of like, hey, what's going on here? Like, I don't understand why you're charging more for tuition, but you're getting plenty of federal aid. You have major sports programs that are breaking in plenty of money. Like,
Hmm.
what's going on here? But that's probably a discussion for another day. But you kind of filled that void and said, hey, you don't want to deal with a 4-year, school. Come here. We got jobs. We have careers lined up for you, but you have to dedicate yourself to us. Now, how are your groups, your target groups, paying for your services? Because that can be kind of a subject of difficulty, for when you're targeting certain groups, or you're targeting a class of folks that doesn't have access to you know the scholarships and the grants, and going, and even maybe even going to a 4-year school. How are they paying for your services?
Yeah, no, definitely. And just, one point that I like to hit on when we talk about the rising cost of tuition is that, since the 70s, tuition has steadily increased
Hmm.
at rates that are, much, much greater than inflation. But the other side to that is the quality of the education hasn't changed at the same rate, right? The pricing is way different than it was 10 years ago, but the education is relatively the same. And that's where it's really broken. But then also too is the groups that we're going after. When you have college paid for, you can start to think about the social experience. And you can look at colleges like, hey, I'm going to go and grow up, I'm going to come and mature here,
Yeah.
versus when you have to pay for it, you're going in with the mindset that what's on the other side of this? I'm going to come in and I'm going to spend 4 years. I'm going to spend X amount of thousands of dollars. I'm here for the thing that's on the other side of it, which is a job.
Yeah.
And that's exactly who Gritly is for. Is the social experience is cool, but maybe you can't afford it, or it's too time consuming. Whatever it is, we're here to get you into that job.
Yeah.
But then when it also comes into like, how do we afford it? And that was something that was so important to me. Like I said, I come from this low income background. A lot of the time, the circumstances that didn't line up traced back to money. And so for me was, I don't, one, we are a for profit business. I do want to say that up front. But two, we were able to make it work with deferred tuition agreements. Now, what that means is, our program is $5,000. Now, I don't know about you. I don't have $5,000 laying around to pay for a program like this. And I know a lot of our students don't either. And so while that's an upfront option, a lot of our students are actually utilizing this deferred tuition agreement where they don't pay anything upfront and they don't pay anything throughout the duration of the program.
Mm,
And so we've set it up where, and this is the way I think it should be in higher education, anyways, workforce development training, where our incentives with Gritly are directly tied to those of our students, meaning that we don't succeed if our students don't. And so, in terms of this deferred tuition agreement, you don't begin paying Gritly a single dime until you're making over $40,000 a year. And so, the typical median income, and is actually pretty tied to family household income as well. With the average student coming into Gritly is about $20,000 to $24,000 a year. And so, minimum for us is $40,000. We feel that we're going to hold ourselves to that standard, and that's a minimum, right? That's just the base salary. We're not even talking about commission and all of the other incentives that these sales reps are offered. We just want to get you to 40K base, and then you begin paying us back over the course of 18 months. And so we've broken it down where our terms are, and it's really important that one, our terms are transparent, but two, they're non-predatory. We have seen too many times in this industry that students are being charged, or just being able to pay interest. Gritly, you don't need a loan. This isn't a loan. There is no interest. We're not running credit scores or credit checks, right?
okay.
We're just here to see you be successful. And we're grateful to have a third party partner, Blair, that handles all of that for us to ensure that we're secure, our students are secure, and they're taken care of, but also that they understand everything, laid out clearly in front of them, and they know exactly what they're getting into. But then the most important part of all of this is that money is not a barrier for you to break in. And then just to even take it that much further, say life happens 6 months down the road after a student has been placed and they've been paying us back for 6 months. Life happens, they're no longer at that company. We're no longer collecting money. We have it set up in a way that we're literally only making money if the students are making money. If they lose their job or they have to leave, we pause our payments and then they go into deferment until they get that next job. And again, it has to be over 40K. And honestly, a lot of the times our students are hitting 60K in their first year, closer to 80 to 100 by year two, and especially once they get into the ability to get promoted to account executives and such. But for us is just setting that floor, keeping it, and tying our standards to our students to ensure that we're setting them up for success. And if we're not doing our job, Gritly's not going to be around much longer. But thankfully we are, and we're continuing to grow, and that's just because again, I put it, our team is everything, but it's our students that are coming in and they're putting in the work, and really it just shows that we're solving a problem that's needed to be solved for unfortunately a long time now.
So how has the company grown, or when did you start it?
So Gritly is the pivot of one of my first companies where I was trying during my undergrad. It was more like a passion project, but I was trying to get university students connected to startups in the Boulder ecosystem. I went to University of Colorado Boulder, and so I was there, with the thriving startup ecosystem. I was like, how do we connect the two, which weren't very connected, surprisingly. And so I started to do that. I built a book of business, but we couldn't find a business model that would scale. And so it was great. Like I said, a lot of excuse me, lessons learned. But then from there, we started to look at, how do we set this business model up? How do we find the right target group? And so we actually made this pivot back in November of 2019. And then from there, we were accepted into the University Accelerator, where, we were able to get some mentorship. And then over the course of from November to September of 2020, we developed that curriculum. And then we launched our first cohort back in September of 2020. And then we've really just been launching cohorts ever since, and have continued to really grow. In terms of revenue from 2020 to 2021, we 22x revenue, and we've made about 33 to 40% of last year's revenue already in January of this year.
So really rolling pretty well, a year and a half, approaching 2 years into this. You've really got a growing company. So how does why should someone come see you? Let's put it that way. If I'm in a excuse me, if I'm in a a minority group, or I'm in a low income family, and why Gritly?
Yeah, and so it's really important, when a lot of companies, especially in 2020 and 2021, we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it's I get it. They're hot keywords, right?
Yeah.
And but what does that really mean?
Hmm.
For us, it's about patience. It's about understanding where our students are coming from and meeting them where they're at. It's way deeper than just the color of your skin, or what city you're from, or your socioeconomic status. For us, it's what access do you have and what support are you coming from, and if you don't have any, then Gritly is the program for you. And so, for us, whether you are a single mom, or you're a veteran that's looking to transition and you don't know where to start because you have so many options, but you keep hearing of tech, or you've had some experience with people and you want to stay in that industry, or you're just as involved, and you're getting out of a rehabilitation program, and you're ready to take your next best step, or you're tired of being going from one bar to another because you're a bartender. You've hit your ceiling in admin assistance, and you can't be promoted anymore. There's a ton of reasons why these individuals are raising their hand saying, I need something new, and I want something that will last me, and something that will make me more money, either for myself to start a family, or for myself for my existing family. These individuals are just looking for that help, and a lot of the times, unfortunately, they don't even know where to start. And so there are marketplaces where you can find Gritly and you can compare us to the other boot camps, but a lot of the times we're actually the first exposure to these individuals, and that's because of the partnerships that we have with community colleges, nonprofits, and workforce development centers, that a lot of these individuals are going to and saying, look, what do I do? And then they're saying, here's Gritly, check them out, and if it's right for you, then we'll bring you into our program and we'll set you up for success. Because unfortunately, a lot of the programs that we're partnered up with, they offer a lot of training either for high school students, or they just offer the certifications and no placement on the back end. And so for us, we're happy to come in and be the full cycle service for these individuals, because that's how we feel, that's how this problem should be solved, in a way that we can move fast. More importantly, we have our ears to the ground, directly listening to our customers, because that's who drives our curriculum and sets our students up for success. So we are, like I said, full cycle service. But for us, it's really about making sure that our students are comfortable when they are finding us, and they really understand what the goals and outcomes are. And if we can get them aligned, really, there's no reasons why our students aren't finding the success that they are seeking out.
Right.
When they're coming out and looking for a program like us.
So if I'm a company, why do I work with Gritly?
Access to really the most diverse and equitable talent pipeline that there is, and one of the reasons why we're named Gritly is, in addition to when I was talking to these companies and saying, look, our students aren't going to have degrees, but what is the number one thing you want to see from them, was grit, right? And especially in an industry and a role like sales, where success is only succeeding 10% of the time, which means 90% failure rate.
Yeah.
That's not something that's easy to just overcome,
No.
or hopping on the phone and getting, yelled at 10 times in a row. That's not easy.
No.
And so, these companies are looking for people that can overcome adversity, that can brush something off like that and say, okay, well, all these no's just got me closer to the next yes.
Yeah.
And so taking it back to, my community where I came from, and, who we're looking to serve, whether you've been through the military, or you've been through hardships in the justice system, or you've been a single mom, all of those things bring their own adversity in a way that if you can get through those, you can get through getting rejection on the phone. Now, for these companies, they don't know where to find these individuals, because yeah, they can go and recruit from a university setting, but a lot of those individuals are not used to failure, right? They're the 4.0 students that had a 3.0 in college, that have always been given the yeses, right? We want people that have been told no, that have been rejected, that have been knocked down, but
Yeah.
can get back up.
They're
And you're
hungry.
not going to they're hungry, right? They're starving even, right? And so for us is, we're going to give them the tools, but they're coming in with the unteachables. Now, if that's who you want on your sales team, you want these individuals who are going to come in and hustle and show their grit, then you come and work with Gritly. Other than that, I wish you the best of luck, but our students are here to bring in numbers. They're here to be successful, because their motivation stems a lot deeper than, oh, cool, this is my first job. No, this is they have to provide for their families or for their future
Yeah.
families and put food on the
This
table.
is the
It's much
job.
bigger than that. Exactly.
Yeah.
This is that's their career now. They're not going to let this, slip by.
So what is Gritly doing now? Just tech sales?
Yeah. So and this is really, as a founder, it's really important to understand the landscape of opportunities that we have. And I'm so fortunate that we have our customers right now are asking us for, hey, we know you do tech sales, or we know you do sales reps, but we need customer success or we need marketing recruitment. And so we know exactly where Gritly is going to grow into, right? We're actually, customer success will be our next curriculum offering that we offer, and that will come here in the second half of this year, followed again by marketing and recruitment. But then other than that, is other industries coming in and approaching us cold, saying, "Look, we know you do tech, but could you come in and offer us, in healthcare or in energy or in oil and gas, where we need access to your reps too?" And so for us is okay. Well, we're gonna understand the tech industry first. We're gonna continue to grow here. But overall, our plan is to really grow into this number one pipeline of diverse talent for entry level positions on the revenue generation side of a business. It just so happens that tech sales is kind of this first engine.
Yeah.
But for yeah, right now what we do is we do tech sales, and we do it really well, and we're going to continue to do it well until really it can just become this well-oiled machine that we know produces high quality talent for high growth companies. And so it's been a lot of fun, and we continue to make changes, and we actually just launched our technology, which is our learning management system that allows the students to come in and navigate their entire Gritly experience through one portal, as well as communicate with coaches, and then also share their performance metrics, and their profiles with our companies to make it as effective and efficient to hire from Gritly as possible.
So I'm gonna ask this. I think it's a common sense answer, but you know, what are how are students going to school with you guys? Or is I mean, I think the obvious answer is it's a self-paced online, thing. But tell me the nitty-gritty about it. If I'm a student, how am I going to school with you guys?
Yeah. So actually, it's really important to for us to let our students know that we're not a massive open online course, right? We're not like a Udemy where, oh, like it's midnight on Tuesday, I'm going to sign up and start at that same point in time. For us, it's really about the human connection too. Now, you don't solve diversity in tech through a business to business software app, right? You just can't get that done. You need some form of human connection. And so for us is, about 75 to 85% of the curriculum and the entire experience is done asynchronously, so on your own time. But the rest of that time is actually, we have live lectures twice a week that our students are able to come into. And we have them, we have one in the evening and one in the morning, and we have them on different days, so that way, if you work in the mornings, you can come to the evening session. If you work in the evenings, or you need more flexibility, you can come to our morning session. We're here to be as flexible as possible. Throughout the duration of the 12-week program, which students are dedicating anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a week, depending on their availability. Because these students will have full-time jobs,
Yeah, yeah.
or they have families to take care of, or both, right? And so for us is, if you can show up when you need to, you can ask for help when you need to. The rest of the program is set up for you to be able to navigate on your own, get it done on your own time. We have individuals that work overnight that get their homework done when they're working because they have so much downtime,
Yeah.
right? I don't care when you're getting it done, as long as it's done and on time, and that you're asking for help when you need it. And so for us is making sure that we have that human to human connection when it's most critical, which really, we have found stems from like career development, right? Getting these students ready for tech sales interviews, which can be 3 to 5 rounds, right? And making sure
Yeah.
their resumes and cover letters are on point, because for them, this might be their first professional setting. That's not, hey, we'll bring you into the, come and check out the bar, we'll interview you, and yes, you're hired as a bartender. Can you start Friday night, right? For
Yeah.
us, is that's set you up for success in the way that means the most. And the reality of it is, you need a human on the other side of that for our individuals, because there is a little bit more handholding needed, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's what Gritly is here for, and that's why
Sure.
no one else has solved it, is because they don't want to take on that extra risk. And you know I just think that, a lot of these individuals are taking the easy way out, and for us, we're solving a big problem, and big problems need, hairy solutions, and we're happy to mix in that healthy balance of human connection and, the ability to perform, asynchronously and get it done on your own time.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the interview thing because interviews now, they used to be, you went in for your interview and, hey, thanks for coming. We'll get back with you. And then you found out if you got the job or not. I mean, there wasn't these multiple rounds of things, of interviews to go to, that just wasn't as common. Now I'm hearing from a lot of my recruiter friends and resume and LinkedIn friends on LinkedIn and other platforms that interviews for even entry level jobs are taking two, three, 4 rounds of interviews.
Mhm.
And it's like, this is insanity that you have to interview that many times. But man, people are really just, companies are just being kind of, picky. I think they're doing their due diligence too. So I'm not going to get mad
Yeah.
at them and fault them for that. But it's just, to me, it's a little crazy how it's turned into that. I remember my first interview for a grocery store that I worked for when I was like 15 and a half, and I walked in and I was like, hey, can I fill out an application? I didn't even get halfway through the application before they're handing me a red smock and saying, hey, come over to aisle 2 and we're going to teach you how to do this. And it was like, I had to, I worked for like 3 hours before my mom came back and she was like, did you get the job? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm wearing a red smock and
Yep.
everything. Like I'm already working. I'm on the clock, but, today, that was 20 something years ago, but today, now I hear plenty about people are, I'm waiting on my second interview or I'm waiting on my third interview. I got called in for it. I'm just waiting for it to schedule. And it's like third interview. Like, and it's not with the same people. The
Yep.
first one's like with the hiring manager, the second one's with like, a small board of managers, and the third one might be with like the regional manager or the CEO or a whole new board of managers, or of their peers. And it's like, wow, this is insane. But it's so much more important now to have those ducks in a row. And if you like, I don't know how to do it. Like I've been working for the government for a long time. Like I've only done one interview.
Yep.
If I had to go do that today, I'd be screwed. I'd be like in a lot of trouble. I can present myself pretty well, but I need to get help. I'm way behind the curve on preparation. I would need my resume is not going to look like everybody else's corporate resume. My resume looks like a federal resume. I would need help in that so it could be read, and I need help with understanding the new interview process today because I'm not ready for 2 or 3 rounds of interviews, So that's a big part of it. I'm glad you guys are kind of answering that question too, because I imagine a lot of people who are seeking your services probably need that as well, or just don't understand it and they need help in that area too. Because this 3 and 4 rounds of interview stuff is to me it's just insane.
Yeah, it's a lot. We actually we I just found out a student, she got an offer yesterday, which we're super excited about, but she went through 3 rounds where she met with the manager, she met with the chief revenue officer and the COO, and then she met with the group of SDRs, followed by a 1 hour role play. And so,
Wow,
not only are we going multiple rounds, but now these interviews are lasting, I think total her third round interview was 2 hours long.
wow,
Um, and so it's like, yeah, like we have to set these individuals up to, yeah, they're going to do the job, but before they get the job they have to close the job, and that all happens during the interview. And we I like to think about it, it's a game, right? We
yeah,
have to play by their rules, we
well,
have to
yeah,
show up and play their game. But you know what we have the cheat codes, we have the insider information.
yeah,
Now we're going to give that to you. Now what you do with that information is up to you, but if you maximize your effort, you're going to get it, right. And so that's the perk of coming through Gritly versus trying to go in cold and just blind and hope for the best. Gritly is here to just hand you all of that information. If you put in the work, and you show your work ethic, there's no reason why you're not able to close that on the other side, regardless of one round interview or 5 rounds of interviews. We're here to set you up, and that's because of the relationships that we have with our employers.
So what's next for Gritly? You said you're going to do was it customer service, customer satisfaction,
Customer success.
customer success. Customer success is coming this fall. But then after that, sound like you're kind of taking your time on growth. But what is the like 10-year vision?
Yeah, I mean, so definitely 10-year vision is for Gritly to be known as, you know, really a direct competitor with universities, right? Because not everyone, one school isn't for everyone. And Gritly, we like to pride ourselves on having what we like to call a no BS curriculum, which means we're not going to sit here and put you through information or lectures that aren't super relevant to the job that you're going after, right? And so for us is if we're going to tell you something, it's because we mean it. And, we're only going to take the time that we absolutely need to make you successful. And so, Gritly will be known as the most equitable hiring platform for high growth companies. And it'll be known as the best pathway to get these entry level roles, no matter what background you're coming in from. And so, the vision for the student experience is that you get to come into Gritly, you get to pick what role you want to get into, what industry that's in, and then also your learning style. So, in addition to our technology, we're collecting a ton of student data that will allow us to, create these machine learning models that will actually craft the student's entire experience based on their learning style. And so, because again, we're looking to serve individuals whose school isn't for them, they all learn differently. And so we want to be able to craft their experience around that and give them that ability to come in, get what they need done, meet with their coaches, and then get hired as asynchronously as possible. And so for us is, of course, expansion into new roles, but then expansion into new industries, and then really just becoming that household name, not only for Gritly itself, but we're also starting to bring in other boot camps, whether, we have two that one is working in Salesforce administrative roles, one is working on the Salesforce business analyst roles, and they're coming in, getting access to Gritly's, technology, and then they're ultimately becoming, part of Gritly's pipeline for our customers. So now it's like Gritly is kind of already doing the tech sales candidates, but now we're introducing Salesforce candidates, and we look at other boot camps as we continue to grow as cooperators for them to come in and get access to our tech and tools and employer tools, and more importantly, so that way we can get all of these individuals hired. So the big play for Gritly is to become a recruitment platform that is trusted, for diverse communities.
So where can they find more about you and Gritly?
www.gritly, that's gritly.us. That's our website. That is definitely your number one resource for, learning more or getting in touch. We host weekly information sessions every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Mountain, so that's 12 Pacific, where you get to come in and just learn a little bit more around, not a little bit, actually, a lot more around what the student experience is like, what the curriculum is, what the commitments are, costs. We cover everything in addition to answering student questions. And we host those every Wednesday, and you can sign up for those on our website. We have a big banner that pops up as soon as you check our site out. And then also you're able, if you understand that Gritly is the program for you, you can also submit an application directly from our website, in which we're happy to review and then bring you into an interview and see if it'd be the right fit for our next cohort. Because just solely based on the growth that we've been having, we didn't necessarily plan for it, but we're launching cohorts every month. We just launched one this week. We're launching another one on February 21st. Here in 2022, and we don't have any plans by any means to slow down anytime soon. So, our website is definitely the best, and you can find us on all socials at Gritly HQ.
All right, man, David, it was a pleasure, man. Thanks for coming on. I'm glad I had the opportunity to kind of give you a platform to talk about Gritly a little bit more. Interesting solution and kind of answer to that, um, that gap in the kind of the social economics of education. And I think it's awesome that you're giving people the chance to really shine in much needed areas, because I think that's half the battle is finding a job that you fit in. So I think it's really cool that you're doing this. And I think although the pandemic wasn't essential, I'm glad that it's kind of given you a direction to go in with tech. I mean, we're always going to need it. It's always a big deal. We're using tech right now to do this podcast. So it's obviously something that we're going to need. And I think it's awesome. You got a bunch of professionals that are landing out there in the world helping us do this so we can record things like podcasts and play on social media and all that fun stuff. So, again, thanks for coming on, brother. I really appreciate your time. And I'll give you a quick second to kind of tell people why they need to look up Gritly.
Yeah, well, no, and first of all, thank you, Jeff, for taking the time to host me today. I definitely appreciate the opportunity, and it's always great to chat. And if you are thinking about that next step in your career, and you don't know what's next, or you just want to learn more, reach out, right? I'll share my email really quick. It's just David, my first name, at gritly.us. I'm an open book. I'm here to be a resource. Whether or not you feel Gritly is the right program for you, everyone needs help, and that's okay. I'm here to be a resource. And so if you are thinking about that next step and not sure where it's at, check out Gritly.